Shalom, shalom. Welcome to Supporting Yah's Cornerstone. My name is Hesra, and that name means moved by Yah. Today's video is a what I've read video, where I just share with you a book I've read and my favorite points out of it. So in today's video, I'm going to share a book called Simple Wisdom for Rich Living. It was by an elder named Oseola McCarty. And so this is my copy, which is very old copy. I've had it many years. So, yeah, it's old. It is an old book. I'm going to try to show a picture of the elder right fast or quickly. Okay, this is her when she was a young woman. And she was from Mississippi, where I live. I'm trying to show her as an elder, because she wrote this book when she was an elder. Okay, this is her as an elder. So this is the book. It is just worn. I have had it a very long time. So the book is called Simple Wisdom for Rich Living by Oseola McCarty. And you may find that I'm pronouncing her first name wrong, so I'm sorry about that. But I wanted to share some of my favorite parts of this book. I think the thing I like the most about Miss McCarty is that she was not ashamed of how she made her living. Her family washed and ironed clothes, and her whole family had a business doing that. Okay, and that was probably in the early 1900s. And so throughout her life, she maintained that same business. And so, and with that business, starting from the early 1900s, not early 1900s, but, somewhere in the 1900s, she was able to save $280,000. And what I like about it is that if they had started their business today, it probably would have been a multi-million-dollar business, and it probably would have been more of a cleaners. But during the time period that they started it, they did well, it seemed, but not, they weren't rich for sure. Okay. I like that idea of, she had this job, she had this business, washing and ironing clothes, and washing and ironing clothes the old school way. Back when you boiling clothes and all of that to get them white and all that kind of stuff. And had to put an iron on something hot so it can heat and then iron it and all that type of thing. So that's what we're talking about. And so she was able to save from the money she made during that time, a time period when some of our people just didn't make a whole lot of money doing that type of thing and other types of hands-on jobs. Not as much as probably we would make today doing the same thing. But that's what I like about her story. She was not ashamed that was her business, that what she did, washed, dried, and ironed people's clothes. And that she saved, Sometimes today, I'm not sure if people know or understand all the time that you can do that you don't have to make a certain amount to save. And so that's one of the things I liked about her book. And I did read this book to my children in homeschool. I also included portions of it in the budgeting part of our homeschool class that I used to have. I incorporated a portion of her book in it. When I look down, I'm just looking down at my notes. But I like the idea of she wasn't ashamed of her job. And that's another thing. I used to tell my children when they were growing up that the only money to be ashamed of is money that you got wrong. If you didn't get that money wrong, nothing to be ashamed of about it, you know. So, you know, if you had to be pick up garbage to make some money that day, fine. My daughter's first job, oldest daughter, first job was at Sonic's, you know. Then she went on to Family Dollar. I just would tell her, you do your best wherever you work. If you flipping burgers for a living, be the best burger flipper you can be. That's what I believe. Do not be ashamed. The only dollar to be ashamed of is a dishonest dollar. That's it. And so, that's one of the things I like from this book. Because some people would have been ashamed of boiling clothes to get them clean and the way she had to iron, but she was proud of her work. Her family, they were proud or glad about their work, you know. And she also managed to save over time. Not millions of dollars, but that's fine too. You know, it wasn't millions of dollars, but she tried to be a good steward over her money. And that's what I like about this book too. So no matter how much money you're getting, you know, just the thought of try to be a good steward over it. And I don't always share what I pray about, but that's one thing I pray about sometimes. Thank you, Creator, for blessing my family with our income this month or whatever. Please bless us to be a good steward over it, that we do well with it, that we budget out well with it. And so I like the fact that she did that throughout her life, enough to save $280,000 throughout her lifetime, which is a lot of money. And I mean, most of us today make way more than she probably ever made in her working lifetime. And would we have saved that? How many people have saved that much today? You know, I'm saying amongst just regular workers, not millionaires or anything, but just us that's regular out here living. So that was a good thing to be able to do too. And like I said before, I like the idea of is that not being discouraged because you're not making lots and lots of money, but whatever you have, saving a little bit out of it, out of whatever you earn. And that's what she did. So I'm going to start to read a little bit from the book. That's what I like to do in the what I've read videos is share with you a little portion of it. Another tip when you're watching my videos for right now, I don't have music in them yet, but what you can do is put on your favorite music and just cut it down low enough that you can hear me. But if I'm too bored just to listen to, and you can just play your own music for right now and then listen to me at the same time. So I thought I'd give that little tip. So page 3 through 4 says, through unfortunate circumstances, at least unfortunate by most of people's standards, Oseola McCarty became involved in the family laundry business at age 8. Although the involvement cost Miss McCarty formal education, it instilled in her a work ethic that she never abandoned. For almost 80 years, she actually took pride in doing laundry. I have heard her describe in almost poetic terms the laundry process of her daily routine, and this is what she described. When I was working, I would wake up at 7. I would go outside and start building a fire under my wash pot. Then I would soak, wash, and boil a bundle of clothes. Then I would rub them, wrench them, rub them again, starch them, and hang them on the line. After I had all of the clean clothes on the line, I would start on the next batch. By the time they were finished washing, the clothes on the line would be dry. I'd take them down and pile them up in the house, on the beds, or wherever there was an open spot. Well, I would wash all day, and in the evenings, I would iron until 11 o'clock. I loved the work, the bright fire, wrenching the wet, clean cloth, white shirt shining on the line. So that's just a portion of pages 3 through 4. Next, I'm going to just hop straight into page 5 and 6. So Miss McCarty shares that hard work gives life meaning. Everyone needs to work hard at something to feel good about themselves. Every job can be done well, and every day has its satisfactions. Excuse me, I turn to page 6. And on page 6, she says, I knew there were people who didn't have to work as hard as I did, but it didn't make me feel sad. I love to work. And when you love to do anything, those things don't bother you. I just loved the work. I was working to have my own things, whatever it was. If it wasn't nothing but a piece of paper, that's just my makeup. I wanted something of my own. A sense of ownership was my satisfaction. And so that was page 5 and 6. And I like the idea. I knew when she said, I knew there were people who didn't have to work as hard as I did. I know that's one thing my mother used to hate is when I would sometimes compare myself to other people. And she would say, would discourage that. It's like, you do your own journey. Whatever going on with you is what's going on with you. Don't compare your life to other people's. And when I was, of course, if you watch my Get to Know Me videos, you know that I got pregnant at 14. I had a baby at 15. And so a lot of things I didn't get to participate in. And I kind of, at a time when maybe I should have been, being able to do more, I couldn't because I had the responsibility of a child. So I didn't get to do a lot of the things that the other people were doing. I didn't have as many clothes as some of the people around me. But at that time, I don't ever remember being ashamed of it. I just knew what the situation was. I didn't have it. So that kind of, I think the idea of not comparing yourself to somebody else, have maybe a easier way financially than you. I think it's good to not compare yourself in that way. But I like when she said that she knew some other people didn't have to work as hard as she did, but she didn't worry about that. And that was a good thing because comparing yourself to others and their journey, it's not beneficial most of the time. So I'm going to skip to page 17 and 19. And Miss McCarty says, I started saving when I was a little girl just to have candy money. When I got grown, I started saving for my future. I go to the bank once a month, hold out just enough to cover my expenses, and put the rest into my savings account. Every month, I save the same and put it away. I was consistent. And so I think that's something to remember is that however much we make, just to be consistent, if you make $100 a week and you just say, well, I can put $5 up a week or $2. Just being consistent over time, you have something. It'll build. Don't matter if it builds slow or not, it'll build. Page 18. The secret to building a fortune is compounding interest. It's not the ones that make the big money, but the ones who know how to save who get ahead. You've got to leave your investment alone long enough for it to increase. Page 19. I did have some advantages to saving money. My house was given to me by my uncle, and the people I worked for gave me my clothes. I had to pay only for groceries and the other little things I needed. But I think my secret was contentment. I was happy with what I had. And I know here in Mississippi, used to be before this housing price increase happened. But for many years, you would ride through country areas and there would be houses in the bushes. Full houses, look like great structures that maybe the children or grandchildren just didn't want to live in because honestly, most people want to live in the cities, and especially years ago. And, the parent will have died or the grandparent and left the house to their relatives. And because of where it was in the country, they would leave it there and move to the city. But can you imagine how much money they could have saved just by getting used to living in a rural area, quiet, how much money you could have saved. I know sometimes in homeschool, I would write down all our bills on the board, and this may sound weird, but I would write them down and add them up, and when we were renting, I would include the rent, and then I would write down how much we paid in rent and multiply that by 12 months, and then multiply that by years. And when my children would see that, they were shocked. They were shocked about that. That's something you could do. Maybe that'll encourage some of you all, consider, some of you all may have an option to stay in a family home in a rural area. You may have that option. Maybe you left your parents' house in the bushes, just growing weeds around. Because believe me, we see a lot of houses like that here in Mississippi when you're riding through the country areas. A lot of houses like that. Where people just left them most of the time. They didn't want to live in the country and they just left it out there. But if if you paying rent, whatever your rent is, multiply that by 12. And then multiply that by however many years you've been staying in that place already. And if you haven't been staying in that place long, multiply that by at least 4 years and see how much you will have spent in that time. It's amazing. And then another thing, in homeschool, we looked up the word contentment. This whole world, basically, and especially here in the States, functions off our not being content. Companies cannot make money if we content. They count on us wanting to buy the next furniture set, the next cell phone, the next new television, the next new computer, the next new laptop, the next new washer and dryer. They don't benefit from us being content. So this society is not structured to encourage us to be content. That's why you have commercials on YouTube, on your regular television, on the radio. You have advertisements. All of that encourages discontentment. Keep buying. We need you to buy. Because if you bought the one phone and the one television and you only rebought every 5 years or every 6 years, or you decide you didn't want to buy it again at all, they would go out of business if the bulk of us decided that. So they don't encourage that. But that's something that I brought up in homeschool budgeting class at the time, where we define contentment. Because discontentment costs a lot. And now the thing about it is, the sad part about the modern times that we live in is that we even do that a lot of times as it pertains to our relationships and families. Not only do we throw things away, a lot of times we throw people away too. Discontentment sometimes not even necessarily a bad situation. I'm bored. I need a change. All these types of things that go on now in today's world. So not only are we discontent with our material things, a lot of times we discontent with the people in our lives too. And not because they've done anything wrong either all the time. It's kind of sad. Next, I'm going to read page 67 through 68. And I'll try to hurry up so this video won't be too long. But Miss McCarty says in 67 through 68, there's a lot of talk about self-esteem these days. It seems pretty basic to me. If you want to feel proud of yourself, you got to do things you can be proud of. Feelings follow actions. I think there's a portion of that that's really true. Page 68. I stay in good health most of the time. I don't exercise too much, but work keeps me moving. I eat plenty of vegetables, carrots, beans, broccoli, cauliflower, and greens. I love to eat, but I eat in small amounts. If you don't eat too much, then you can eat whatever you want. Take a piece or a slice, not a whole or a half of something, with just a taste of tea. Too much tea is hard on your kidneys. So that was page 68. Page 69 says, worry can ruin you. So I try to keep it behind me. I keep busy with my work and let problems go on behind me or wherever they want to go. Let me press forward. My life is ahead of me. Sometimes the devil will overpower you with worry, trying to keep you down and suck out all the good in your life. You've got to be careful and guard your thoughts because he'll tell you lies that look like the truth. Now, for a lot of us, we don't believe in the devil. We know better that as far as that definition and topic Miss McCarty was talking about. But definitely your mind, the scripture says the heart is deceitful above all things. And that's talk about your mind, how your mind can deceive you. And I used to tell my children sometimes that when your mind tells you a lie, you have to tell it the truth. And our mind will lie to us sometimes. And that's something that I have practiced myself. And so that is definitely true, where your mind will carry you away instead of you guiding it. We'll let it guide us in a thoughts that's not productive or righteous. Page 75. So it's 2 more pages. I'm gonna try my best to wrap it up so this video won't be too long. Page 75 says, when I leave this world, I can't take nothing away from here. I'm old and I won't live always. That's why I gave the money to the school and put my affairs in order. So she donated so many thousands of dollars of her savings to a university here in Mississippi. I planned it and I'm proud of it. I am proud that I worked hard and that my money will help young people who have worked hard to deserve it. I'm proud that I am leaving something positive in this world. My only regret is that I didn't have more to give. And I think that's something for all of us to think about, is what are we going to leave to the ones coming behind us? And not money all the time, but definitely a thought pattern, And most of us that live the Hebrew Israelite lifestyle, and we have children or we have family members, even if you don't have children, you have family members. Mostly, a lot of times we do have a mind to want to leave a legacy of Yah's word in the lives of the people around us. But definitely in the Hebrew Israelite community, that is something for us to think about, is what are we going to leave behind? That's part of why I wanted to do Supporting Yah's Cornerstone and do what I'm doing now, is that if somebody walk with Yah but can be better than mine has been, if it can be better faster, if they can improve faster, if they can not make certain mistakes, that's one of the legacies that I can leave behind to help my the rest of the help the rebuilding of our people who are deciding to live for Yah. So that's something for all of us to think about. What are we leaving behind when we pass? Finances are good too, because our nation is going to need some money to rebuild and do certain things too. So that's not a bad thing, but definitely a thought pattern too, and those type things also. Page 79. On page 79, Miss McCarty says, some people make a lot of noise about what's wrong with the world, and they are usually blaming somebody else. I think people who don't like the way things are need to look at themselves first. They need to get right with God and change their own ways. That way they will know that they are making a difference in at least one life. If everybody did that, we'd be all right. And I can definitely agree with that. And sometimes over the years I have thought about that, and I have talked about that with my children sometimes, especially when they argue with one another or something. Say most time when you're arguing, if somebody know they wrong, they just won't admit it. If that one person will stop and just say, hey, I see why I was wrong. Because normally it's one or the other person most of the time. then that would solve a whole lot of things. And when you think about it, if each one of us, especially within the Hebrew Israelite community that's resurrecting, would work on ourselves, how much better would the whole be if we each woke up with that thought? So I definitely liked her saying that, because most times our fingers are pointing out at everybody else. Everybody else need to do the most character work. Everybody else need to do the most of this or that. But a lot of times, if we take a long look at some things we need to work on, ourselves too. And so I used to tell sisters I was around sometimes that I can tell you a character flaw of each one of y'all, but I don't spend my week thinking about your character flaws all day. I spend my week thinking about my character flaws, focusing in on that and those of my children and my family, and how can I help with that? I pray for yours and I try to help how I can, but I don't spend my day to day with that. But so I definitely get what she was saying in that, in page 79. But I hope that you enjoyed my small reading and thoughts that I got from this book. The book is called Simple Wisdom for Rich Living by Miss Oseola McCarty. And so I will put the information to the book in the description, if y'all will. If you'd like to contact me, you can by email at yazcornerstone@gmail.com. yazcornerstone@gmail.com. You can follow me on Instagram. The page is Supporting Yaz Cornerstone. There's also a Facebook page, Supporting Yaz Cornerstone. I'm on Instagram a little more than Facebook. I'm trying to check in on Facebook sometimes, and you're welcome to leave comments on YouTube under this video also, or any other places that you may see it. Thank you for your time, and I wish you well. Shalom, shalom.